Hi everyone, my name's Jackie Black and I am a burnout and resilience coach. I help parents, educators and other professionals really understand how to manage their emotions, how to reconnect with themselves and how to be more effective in every area of their life. And this is the conversation that I'm having with Prosper today on his fabulous online prosperity show. I hope you enjoy it.
For those that are watching, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. And I don't say that lightly because this is your premier destination for exclusive insights from people who just don't talk solutions. They actually leave them. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And today we have a returning guest, and it's none other than the one and only Jackie Black. Now, Jackie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Prosper. It is an absolute delight to be back here with you today.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. If I can smile any wider than I am right now, I think my face would literally come out of my mouth, because then it's just the amount of excitement that I have for what you've brought for us this time around. Now, for those that are watching or tuning in for the very first time and meeting Jackie for the very first time, let me just take you from under that proverbial, internet rock you've been hiding under, because Jackie has remarkable resilience and emotional regulation activities and exercises that she coaches people with. And she's also the burnout buster extraordinary. And we were just talking pretty much about her new programs and the things that she's doing to help parents do and have a happier existence, and especially fill their cups so they can be there for their loved ones. Now, for those that remember Jackie, you might remember her from her unforgettable debut from the last time she was on the show. Yeah, she is that same woman that can light a match with her toes. This time around, I wanted you to do this, Jackie, but hey, in the interest of those that are listening, they might not have the great experience that this comes with. So today she's here again to transform, obviously, stress into clarity and burnout into brilliance. So stick around, because if you've ever felt like maybe stress has got you frazzled, and this happens a lot for a lot of people, even before their morning coffee, I think this episode is for you. Now, Jackie, for those that don't quite have an understanding of who you are, what it is that you bring to the table, you can just give us a high level sort of introduction of what it is that you are doing and what you've been working on.
So I am, as you said, burnout, resilience, emotional regulator, coach, mentor, facilitator of workshops, different programs. And I really try and help people understand how to manage their emotions and how to reconnect with themselves so that they can really be more effective in every area of their life. That's sort of in a nutshell. I'm a true believer in human potential. My background's in teaching. I was a high school visual arts educator for 30 plus years. And I definitely believed in the potential of every single student that came through my class, and their ability to be creative and find their own creativity. And I guess I've taken that forward into what I do in terms of when I coach, work with clients, etc. There's a way to connect with everybody. There's a way to understand what everyone, more help people understand their own journey and to understand their uniqueness on their path, and help them, when they have that sense, actually interact in a far more healthy way with those that are around them. And so I guess passionately, I started out initially from burnout as a teacher, wanting to help teachers, but as this has grown in terms of my feeling, my understanding, my passion has really turned to the parents, because I really see parents as like the central point in that circle. You know, you've got your schools, you've got your parents, you've got the kids with their social lives or whatever. And if the parents in the middle are the influences of what can go on, and we see so much stress and anxiety within our kids, and if we can be the example and the invitation for them in a much healthier way, then hopefully we can have a far more responsive and less reactive environment that we're all experiencing.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for giving us that brief sort of entry into this conversation. Now, you did say you started off as a teacher and now you're working with the parents. Did you just think to yourself, the kids that I was teaching are old enough to be parents now, let me just continue with them and keep working with them? Or was there something particularly that you sort of started realizing? Because as you said, parents are that pivotal journey between the school and the students.
I can tell you exactly what it was. So, as I said to you, burnout, like talking to people, professionals, predominantly professionals, that's my starting point. You know, they were my first clients. They are, the majority of people that talk about burnout. And then a few years ago, maybe about 2 years ago now, for the very first time, I heard the term parental burnout. And I went, what? Because burnout, my definition of burnout is that your light's going out, that you don't have the energy to do the stuff that you're passionate about. And parenting is such an important job. And I mean, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It breaks my heart to think there are parents out there who feel like their light is going out for the most important job in the world. You know, you've brought new life into the world, and there's got to be a reason that you chose to do that. And to not feel like you can find the enthusiasm, the passion, the enjoyment in that situation, that broke my heart. And I guess that's really when I decided I really wanted to, at this particular point in time, go all in for parents. And I guess I've also got that little bit of I'm not the only person in the world with this background or insight, but having been a teacher, having been in a helping and caring profession, being in a profession that does give to more, and then also being a parent, parenting my own children as they were growing up. And certainly I've always been into personal development, but sort of not with the knowledge and information that I have now. But I can certainly see now also as a grandparent, aspects of what I've, learned and evolved, especially these last few years, really playing out in a far more positive way for my grandchildren. Not to say that, my kids aren't on their own learning journeys and they're both, doing pretty good jobs. But yeah, it became a real passion for me. It became something I feel very urgent about. And I think, the world is getting more reactive, less responsive. People are finding less time to take a space. I don't know if you're familiar with Jefferson Fisher. I heard him speaking. He's an American lawyer, but he has his own podcast. Anyway, one of the things he says, and it's very much in line with what I do as one of the practices that I teach people, and he says, let the first words from your mouth be your breath. And that's so important. That when you recognize your first thought and then you stop and you give yourself time to just breathe before you open your mouth for your second thought, in that space, hopefully you can create enough of a gap to choose a better response rather than something that's going to push whatever the situation is into a different state that might not be so helpful.
Fantastic. Now, Jackie, you see, the thing is, when you're looking to right a wrong, there has to be a right from which it stems from. Now, what you're talking about is very systemic. the school is a system. What the parents are going through is also part of a system where they have to go to work and also have to deal with whatever it is that they have to do. Where can people start? Let's start from where can people start? Is it starting from the burnout or starting from the prevention of it all?
I think it starts with, well, always it starts with awareness, recognizing,
Right.
you know, it's actually taking a moment to recognize, to stop, to have a look around, to recognize, how am I feeling in this moment? What am I feeling? How am I thinking about it? How am I wanting to behave in regards to those feelings? I mean, it sounds like a long process, but you can actually, a nice, easy question you can ask yourself before you even open your eyes in the morning is, what am I feeding the field? You know? And by the field, I mean, like, I don't know if I said this to you on the last time we spoke, but everyone knows, whether or not they recognize that, oh, yes, we're all energy. Everyone knows that you can walk into a room and you can feel like if there's been an argument, it can feel like you could cut the air with a knife.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Because we're all energy. And I heard a lovely analogy the other day. It's like, the energy that comes out from your cell phone, that can be picked up by radio towers, etc. We're broadcasting that energy, and people can feel it, people can sense it. So we can, when we stop and we're aware, and if we truly, truly understand that we are the ones who get to choose our thoughts. I mean, I honestly, I'm such a, I have such belief in people. I believe that everyone understands that they control their thoughts. Well, no, I've even had someone very close to me just recently say, well, it's all right for you. You can do that. And I don't know whether I got a little bit harsh with them. And I went, well, who else lives in your head? Like, stop and think about that for a minute. Like, who's putting those thoughts in your head? You're choosing to either allow things in and make them real, or you're choosing to recognize it and go, oh, that's interesting, but that doesn't actually connect with who I am or who I want to be, so I don't have to take that one on. Does that answer your question?
It does a tremendous amount, because the one thing about it is, obviously fish don't see the water that they swim in. If Sally sees Auntie Mary being like that, and it's always been like that, and there's all that stuff happening, should I say, maybe chaos around, people don't necessarily notice because that's how everybody else is running. But you've got this extraordinary ability to sense emotional chaos in seconds. Could you maybe tell us what it is that you see in people so that you can call them out on that? Because once somebody realizes certain aspects about who they are and that chaos, they would choose to do better, I suppose.
Yeah. So, as I said, I think maybe because I've become, and I guess I always have been, because I've always been interested in how we operate as human beings, I guess I have tuned into that sort of energetic space without realizing initially that I was tuning into energetic space, or the field as it's come to be called. So yeah, so I mean, I would recognize quite quickly, or that pick up on that sense of very quickly, that things weren't, the words weren't matching the actions, type of things. And it just, I think, as I said, I think it comes from that ability to just being quiet enough with yourself in those moments to recognize what's going on. Because it's not, what I say, I had it when my kids were younger. Not, I think as a parent, you have that sense of what's going on for your kids, generally speaking. Was I picking up as quickly? Possibly. You're asking me to go back a bit. My kids are in their 30s. But yeah, I think it's when you've got that opportunity to just take that pause, take that breath, and just assess something's not feeling right here. Something's in this field is feeling out of alignment for me. And all I can do is ask the question. And I can ask it of myself, or I can ask it of the person that I'm engaging with. What's actually going on for you here? And if you're comfortable enough to keep pushing and asking that question, yeah, I hear that response. I'm sensing something else. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Yeah, that's.
Absolutely. You see, what I feel like that does is it sort of is a reset on your nervous system, because if you do a pause, like you said, if the first thought that you say is your breath, obviously you're very, very intentional in everything else that you're going to be doing. From that, what are some of the maybe micro shifts that people can do to make that reset, just so that they can self-diagnose while in the moment?
So here's the main one. So the main one comes from an organization called the HeartMath Institute, HeartMath. People go, the what? So I thought I'd better spell it out. And so I'm a certified HeartMath coach and HeartMath trainer. That became when I started to understand the truly understood the power of HeartMath, because I was introduced to it initially through the technology that you can use, sort of a bit of biofeedback stuff. So it was a bit gamified. But when I actually understood the physiological shifts you can make in the moment from something as simple as a 30-second, just focusing your attention in the area of your heart and just calming your breath down. And there are other techniques that you can do too, but this is fabulous because it's an eyes open technique. And there's a couple of reasons why we focus on the heart. And I'll go into those in a second. And it's not, and the thing is, like, people got, breath work. Lots of things start with the breath, but this is not specifically breath work. So it's not about doing something that is breath work specific. So you don't count your breath, you don't box breathe. Are you familiar with those sorts of ideas around breath work? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. You
yeah,
breathe in 4 seconds,
yeah.
you maybe
It's not
pause
about
after
counting.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely not about counting, because when you're counting, you're staying up here.
Okay.
So you want to get yourself out of your head. So you're focusing. So what you're doing is you're focusing your attention in the area of the heart. Have you got 30 seconds? Do you want to do it with me? You can do this eyes open or eyes closed.
Right.
Okay. And the wording is really specific, because what HeartMath has found is this actually creates like this, there's an energetic sense around the words that you use. So the wording is really specific. So I know it, but I'm just going to make sure I read it just in case nerves get the better of me and I don't say it correctly. But you can do this eyes open or eyes closed. And what I want you to do is to focus your attention in the area of your heart and imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. And we're just going to do that quietly for about 30 seconds. That's just under 30 seconds. Noticing anything? What do you notice?
My default thing is gratitude. I completely go straight to, like, I could hear my little girls in the background, and I was just like, I get to be their dad. And that for me is just remarkable. So
And did you feel anything in your body as you were doing that? Did you feel any shifts? I mean, I know you're very calm at the moment. You're in a good state.
uh
So interestingly, what you can do, like if you wanted to sort of test this out, like why does this work? And it's not why, which is exactly why wouldn't ask you to do it here, because some people say, "Where's my pulse?" But if you actually put like I find it on my wrist, if you do that exercise, and this is not how you train yourself to do it, but it's a very good way to see what's happening actually in that. I said the physiological side, the science side of it. If you just focus your attention in the area of the heart, and you just, as I said, imagine your breaths, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. There's no timing given, because that can, as I said, can stress people out or put them back in their head. You just slow down your breathing and you feel what's happening to that pulse. And what you notice is on the out breath, as you're slowing down your breathing, your pulse slows down. And if you've heard of the autonomic nervous system, which is running our body automatically, you have a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And the rest and reset aspect is the parasympathetic. And what you feel is on the out breath, as I said, you feel that pulse slow down and you've just turned on your parasympathetic nervous system. How much fun is that?
I know. What I like about that is, still in reference to my little girls, I could hear them screaming at each other or whatever it is, but I could actually calm myself down so that when I go there, I'm not aggravating the situation. I'm actually allowing them to be and really find out what actually happened, so we could obviously, act on what has happened. Now, what this does is, if I would walk out there angry, I exacerbate the situation or aggravate the whole situation, and it might actually escalate and somebody might actually get hurt or whatever would be happening at that particular time. So with that, people can literally write the script of their own lives, right? Or co-create what they want the outcome to be. Because
just as simple as that. So I'll give you a bit of background on why we focus on the heart. So it breaks that looping thought cycle of, your mind chatter, which perpetuates those stressful feelings. We focus on the heart because scientists, obviously, they talk about wherever you put focus in your body, you can, have a measurable physiological change in that area. So that's that biofeedback side. You begin to draw more energy into your heart, and that can help begin that shift to just a more coherent message being sent around the body. Because I don't know whether I said this to you last time, the brain speaks more to the heart speaks more to the brain. So there's more messages going up this way than there are from the brain to the rest of the body. Very, very interesting. Too much science there to go into, but happy to chat with anyone about that. That's a really fascinating thing. And also, if we're focused on the heart area, we're not focusing on the situation that's just upset us, which is where we can often get fed more emotional energy. And so we're allowed, it creates that space, as I said, that pause to get us more centered so we can respond, be in that more responsive state. So as you were saying, if you go into a space, even if you go in there from, say, you've opened an email in your office and you've just gotten a little bit annoyed and you think, but like, I'm calm, I'm okay. But if you're going into that space to then go and talk to your kids who are doing something, and you're still carrying that thought loop of, that email I've got to get back to, energetically, everything's got a frequency. So that irritation has a frequency that's coming out, whether it's big or small. We recognize the big ones. We recognize those big explosions when we feel like our emotional, our mental, our physical battery has been completely depleted straight up. But we don't recognize those small ones. We don't recognize those small little annoyances, getting annoyed in traffic, and we think we get out of the car, it's past. Well, how many people, people get up then and, they're in another conversation and they'll rehash that story again of what happened in the traffic jam and how annoyed they got with somebody, etc., 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 going back over stuff. And what they don't realize is putting themselves back in that situation starts that redumping of all those stress hormones again, cortisol being the one we know the best. And what they're doing throughout their day, they wonder why they can't sleep at night. Well, they haven't had any big explosions, so they're sitting there going, I don't get it. Like, why am I getting a restless night? And they've been microdosing themselves throughout the day with stress hormones. Cortisol, given its cycle, if it doesn't get dumped on again, it goes through your body in 20 minutes, I think. But if you keep microdosing yourself, it doesn't have a chance to run its course.
Okay. You're speaking as a scientist right now, somebody who's obviously gone in and studied the books around that. If I'm to come in as a digital marketer and I'm looking at the way people are consuming micro content, which is designed to give you all kinds of feelings in 5 seconds, could that actually be opening us up to so many different loops that by the time we drive home in traffic, our brain doesn't know whether we're dealing with something we saw in a 5-second TikTok or we're actually dealing with what's in front of us?
Absolutely. And really interesting, there was something, and to this day, I cannot find that documentary. It was fascinating. My husband, it was a couple of years ago, I think it was during COVID, and my husband was watching this documentary, and they were talking about the brain, they were talking about the amygdala being like the gateway, like tells us when we need to stay or when it's time to run. And the amount of stuff that's coming at us so quickly, content, whether it's stuff we're looking at on social media or other information we're taking in too quickly, it's my visual with this is like it's just this really floppy muscle. It doesn't have the capacity to stand strong and let us know what's real because there is no lion coming to eat us. Right? Not to say that, in some parts of the world that might be actually very true. And whatever, the lion could be a metaphor or it could be a real one. So yes, for some people that's probably very true. It needs to be on alert to let people know when to run. But really, for the majority of us, we've just been, tuned in to react, to not recognize that there are models, business models out there that are designed for that very thing, to only feed us stuff that's going to cause a reaction, which is why I stopped watching the news 5 years ago. It was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to find out what's going on. I mean, my husband watches it once a night, or actually he listens to it more than that. But okay, when we're in the same space, having dinner, after dinner, before dinner, whatever, the TV might be on for a bit. But I actually, people say, oh, and what about? And I go, oh, you'll need to tell me about that. I didn't know about that. The big stuff I'm going to hear about. But really, some of the other stuff that causes stress, those spaces are created to highlight the stuff that makes us want to come back for more, whether we want to come back and see it repeated again on the, in different spaces, or come back and see, has a solution been found yet? No, they've highlighted that again. They don't want to highlight the good stuff. That's going to keep us calm. We're not going to be in fight or flight if we're there. And so, yes, those digital marketers who can't sleep, and absolutely, a way to slow that down, interestingly, is if you're on social media, to actually engage in the social side of it in a positive way. That's going to be far more helpful. Obviously, if you're just there for the negative, then, well, sorry, you're your own worst enemy. But if you engage with someone's content and have a bit of a chat, you are less likely to be depleting yourself as fast. So,
but Jackie, you know what you just said in one breath there? All the things that are designed to be there for us. Obviously, you want to know what's happening with the weather. That's where the news is there. You want to know what's happening in your local area. That's why the local Facebook group is there. You want to know what's happening. You want to create a nice little meal for your kids. That's why Instagram is there, or things of that nature. And all of those things have actually been weaponized against us, if I'm hearing correctly from...
Listen, I love playing Duolingo. But you know what? It's weaponized itself against me because I've got a fabulous streak going on my languages. But if I miss a day, And if I miss 2 days, I've got streak freezes occasionally, then I'm back to zero and I lose that nice big streak number that I've got. So, like, even in that sort of way, and that creates a touch of stress for me. But that, you're right, absolutely, there can be good content, but it's also designed in a way to keep us coming back. Lots of stuff's designed to keep us coming back. But, if we go back to that very first thing about, and using that thing with the heart focused breathing and that eyes open technique, when I am teaching clients how to just start, because this is actually the first technique in terms of self-care that I teach people, the very first technique. There are other things that can build on from that, and you sort of automatically went into one of them, which was to go into that space of appreciation or gratitude for the sounds of your kids playing. And there's lots of science going on about that, about how when we are appreciative in gratitude, what a positive impact that has on us physiologically. But what I do say to clients is, when you sit up in bed in the morning, just do 30 seconds of heart-focused breathing. First of all, it's not a bad thing to just sit up and not move, because then your body can rebalance yourself. Your blood and all of that going from the lying to the sitting. So for 30 seconds, and in that 30 seconds while you're doing that heart-focused breathing, you can think about, how am I feeling this morning? What have I woken up thinking about? What do I want? What do you think I'm feeding the field if I go out feeling like that? What do I want to feed the field? And you can continue thinking about that as you go to the bathroom and brush your teeth and start your day and whatever, in those quiet moments before anything else comes in. And then hopefully that can make wiser choices. And then when you go to bed at night, just do some heart-focused breathing. And question yourself again. It's that practice of awareness. And it is practice. But then you start to recognize how you might have felt. You might recognize at the end of the day, suddenly I'm sleeping better. I know a client said to me, she realized when she'd forgot to practice her heart-focused breathing, that her day didn't seem to go as well. She didn't sleep as well at night. And this was after a few weeks of practicing. But if you do this on a regular basis, in 6 weeks you can feel a huge shift. And you can start to bring it into moments as like a fix for after. So the definition of resilience that I work with comes from the HeartMath Institute, which is the capacity to prepare for, to recover from, and to adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And most people, when you ask them what resilience is, they'll tell you it's pushing through, or it's being strong in the moment, or whatever. And lots of people are talking about capacity, but are they recognizing where you can build your capacity? And if we can build our capacity to be prepared in the moment, so that we can have that space for that breath, for that thought, and if we can practice that when we don't need it, then we have easier access to it when we do. And if we forget to do it when we do need it, we can do a quick reset afterwards, so that we're not depleting ourselves, so that we're coming from a full cup, not from one that's already been drained. And the fastest area that we drain ourselves is in the emotional area. So,
No, Jackie, I mean, obviously, you've elaborated doing like a digital hygiene or digital cleans, no TV, and just being mindful of what you're consuming content-wise and things of that nature. That I can literally switch off my phone, and that's a way. How about yap, nyak, nyak from neighbors, aunties, everybody else around me that think that's just the way things are supposed to be? How do we filter through that? And does this actually work on humans?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, everyone talks about boundaries. And it's so interesting that you asked about that, because I was listening to something just this morning talking about boundaries. And they were saying the hardest people to set boundaries with is your family, because there's so much history there.
Yeah.
And to start small and to start setting boundaries within yourself, like even something as simple as, Okay, I'm going to have a boundary around where I eat my lunch. And lunch has to be eaten with me just focusing on my food, not sitting in front of my computer doing this, doing this, doing this. So starting to have those boundaries. When it comes to other people, interesting. Um, I'll give you a really, really personal example. Really personal example of something that happened with my son and I. And I had been doing a lot of work on relationships and communication in relationships. And I'd learned a way of understanding myself, and which was interesting because no one in my family was doing the work that I was doing, but because I could understand not just myself and how, like, what my operating system is, best way to put it, but I had a stronger sense of their operating systems. And I had language that allowed me to calm their operating system, which is, it's like a magic trick. It's great. I couldn't believe how well it worked. So this was a couple of years ago, and it was actually prior to doing any of the HeartMath stuff. So it was before I knew, well, before I'd gone deep into what I'm doing with this now. But we'd had a miscommunication. He'd said something to me, and I had said, I just need some space. I'm going to hang up, but I just need some space. I said, you haven't done anything wrong. This is just miscommunication. So I'm going to hang up, but I'm going to call you back in a few minutes. And when I called him back, he started yelling at me. But what I had done in that time was I just really it was interesting. The timing of this argument was at a point where, through the work I was doing, I was practicing ways to calm situations and, or to communicate, as I said, in a way that addressed their nervous system without, escalating it further. And he started yelling at me, and I just said to him, there's no need to yell. I'm sitting right here. And he kept yelling, and I just kept, like a mantra, I just said to him, there's no need to yell. I'm sitting right here. And every time I said it, the level of his hostility came down because he had to match, understandably now, he was matching my energy. My energy wasn't going to play into that energy. It's like, there's no need to yell. I'm standing right here. And another one I like to use is, if someone says something and it's been the usual dance of the argument, we've been down that road, we know exactly where it's going to take us. Is there something else we can try? So I'm really firm with my boundaries, really firm. Even to the point of, something as small as if my husband wants to come into the office and ask me something and I'm in the middle, and I'll say to him, well, I'll either do one of two things. I'll say to him, I'm going to be in my office because we both work from home. I'm going to be in my office between here and here. So please don't knock on the door because I've got this going on or whatever. I'm seeing a client or I want to call or whatever. But if he does walk in and starts talking to me, I go, I'd love to give you my full attention. I can't do it at the moment. I need to finish this. Give me 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. Give me 10 minutes and I'll come and give you my full attention there. And then he feels seen, he feels heard. And he can calm down. Now, am I perfect at this? Absolutely not. But you know what? When I'm more aware and more mindful, or even, I remember it was actually probably during COVID, there was like conversation all about, and I just said, and it was a dinner at my home with the family. And I went, my home, my table, let's pick another topic. We're not talking about what you're seeing on the TV. Let's talk about something else. And there was a bit of pushback from a couple of people who like to go down that rabbit hole. But basically, we changed topics. I wasn't rude. Maybe I was to some people. I don't know. But it wasn't said with aggression. It was like, hey, guys, my home, my dinner table. I want us to come here and have a beautiful conversation. Can we get off this topic now?
Wow. That takes a redemptive amount of self-confidence and self-respect, because so many of us are afraid to not be liked, and that's the reason why we go now into people pleasing sort of modalities, and that fear of being,
Yeah.
taken out of the clan, and there comes that saber-toothed tiger that is just gonna proverbially eat us. But I think some of this stuff you teach it or you help people with in your programs, the calm in the chaos series. Could you maybe
So the
let us
calm and the
know?
chaos. Yeah. So this is a parent program, and it's part. There's a. If you were on my website, you'd probably see it, from stress to strength. But this is really a parent program to help parents really understand that idea that we talked about earlier. What are they feeding the field? And it's really to help us raise healthier kids, I guess. To get parents out of that stage of feeling like they're burnt out, they're pushing through. Burnout is it's a term. When I talk about it in terms of that sense of like the thing that you're passionate about, your light's going out for. And I don't know if I said it to you before or while we've been talking today, but it really concerns me how many parents are talking about burnout. And I guess, that's definitely been a big reason why, as much as I love helping professionals, and I'm not going to stop helping professionals, teachers particularly, gosh, and then okay, let's go teachers, let's go medical personnel, allied health, all those people that are in helping professions that are, really feeling burnout, absolutely still there for all of you. But parents, it's really important. It's the most important job. We're raising the next generation. Do we want them to be reactive, or do we want them to be able to access their critical back brain, to be able to come into the world feeling safer, feeling more connected to who they truly want to be, not feeling like they have to, that they've got enough confidence in themselves to show up with values that really can make a difference for themselves and for people in the world going forward. But yeah, so parents are definitely, coming. We as mums, particularly as mums, because early on that connection is built in, that energetic, emotional, heart to heart connection is built in, because we've carried them, we birthed them, we're feeding them. There's the skin contact. There's all of those sorts of energetic connections that we're making with them. And the father, how it depends obviously how active we're involved, but even the father's energy is in that space as well. And even as a disconnected father, that energy is in that space. The child's picking up on that. And the behaviors, and really I don't think any parent would be hugely surprised if they actually thought about it. If your child's acting out and you're on your phone, because that's what they think is the most important thing in your life, then they're picking up on your energetic communication with them, your non-verbal energetic communication with them. And as you start to get irritated, you're probably going to see, even if it's small things, you might be getting irritated with something on your phone. They're going to pick up on that energetics as well. And it's just, if we can change that in the home, if we can do our best to be the example and the invitation of better ways to communicate, better ways to deal with issues, better ways to deal with our own emotional states, we can, create an environment for these kids to grow up feeling safer, more confident, able to, as I said, connecting with their own intuitive guidance as well. A lot of these techniques you can actually teach to kids. I know one father in particular, he starts his day every day. Now, once he learnt the technique of understanding that idea of what am I feeding the field, and there's languaging we put around for kids, which is like, if you think about it, what's my emotion, what's my internal weather, what's going on with my internal weather, and then you can use one of the coherence techniques, you can do something as easily as heart-focused breathing. When I teach it to kids, and my grandkids know how to do this, you know, I love watching my granddaughter shift her heart from like when she's feeling cranky or upset. And I say, well, what colour's your heart? And she'll tell me. I said, what colour would you like it to be? And she tells me. And I went, okay, put your hands on your heart, close your eyes and breathe that colour into your heart. And you tell me when it goes that colour. And seriously, in sub 30 seconds, she's got this huge smile on her face and tells me it's the colour that she wants it to be. And she's happy. And guess what? She's stopped those looping thoughts. And we don't talk about it again. Because the only way you're going to keep in that space of dumping that energy is when you think about it, talk about it, revisit it. And if you can stop it, I mean, if you didn't know that technique, you can literally just let a child, as long as they're physically safe, if a child's having a tantrum, especially a 2-year-old, this is a great one for a 2-year-old, let them have their tantrum. Don't go and say to them, but I told you not to do that. If you don't stop doing that, and you wonder why it starts to escalate. If they're having a breakdown, now I know this is, if you've got some kids with particular stuff going on, take it out of that. But basically, you're run-of-the-mill child. If they're having a tantrum and you don't buy into it, those chemicals pass through their system within 90 seconds and they'll come up with a smile on your face and take your hand and do whatever you want them to do. I've done it. I know it works. I've had a woman come and watch me and go, what did you do? I said, nothing. She said, but you did. She was having a tantrum. I went, yeah, and I didn't talk to her about it. She said to me, that's like a magic trick. It's all good.
Absolutely. And Jackie, now where can people go to find out when the next cohort is starting or when the next experience starts with this?
So you can go to my website, which is jackieblack.com.au. And when you go and have a look at the courses, there's inquiry pages. So you can go onto a wait list. You can email me directly from that. You can message me directly. And definitely, reach out, ask questions. As you can see, this is like really, I love to chat about this stuff and I love waking people up to what's possible for themselves. So by all means, go and have a look. And pretty much, probably every 2 months, there'll be, doors opening for a new cohort. But I take small groups, so it's not like big groups. I work one-to-one with, if a parent went, you know what, I don't want to do this in a group, I actually just want to work with you. With pleasure, we can talk about that as well. But I do find there's a lot of value in working in small groups. And the groups are usually no more than 6 to 10 people. And it's a great way to just be in a space and feel like you're not alone, that there are other people going through this with you. And also to hear how other people are managing, because, I'm learning in that space as well, because sometimes people will come in and go, oh, actually, I've come across this, and go, oh, I'm not familiar with that. I'll go and check it out. So it's a space where, yes, you can learn from me, but I definitely love learning from you as well.
So in a way, I mean, obviously all those links are going to be in the show notes below, but in a way you are saying it takes a village, right?
Absolutely. And for ourselves too. I mean, gosh, we say it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village, to ensure that, keep an eye on us and make sure we're keeping our own cup full so we can get from the overflow.
Absolutely. Now, not only are you opening up to literally give people back to themselves, because if somebody has been a fully grown adult walking around and can't even self-regulate, and you're putting them in groups like that so they can work with others so they too can start enjoying life per se. You also have an upcoming book, or did I speak too soon? Because I get excited when people
it's being written. It's being written. And in fact, the beautiful people that become part of my parenting program are helping me sort of really hone in on particular things that I'd known, understood, or assumed. I'm not going to say assumed, that I'd had incidental conversations about, just specifically about that idea of our kids tuning in to our emotional states earlier than what we realize, because it's, those small things, as I said earlier, when you're in those depleting stages and you think you've passed through it, but you're carrying them into the next moment and the next moment. And then we wonder why our kids blow up. And then we wonder why we blow up or why the kids are acting up. And so very much that idea of our kids almost being a little bit like that canary in the coal mine. And so that's pretty much what the book's going to be around and about. It does have a working title at the moment. It may stay as the title, which is called The Parental Time Bomb. And just to be clear, nothing in it is about wanting people to feel guilty about what they do or where they're at, because the last thing parents need is to feel guilty, because that doesn't help anybody.
Absolutely. Now,
So with
Jackie,
just some compassion, that's it.
you know what this means now, Jackie? This leads us into, when the book comes in, you're gonna have to come and launch it on the Online Prosperity Show. I mean, you
With
walked
pleasure.
yourself into that one.
With pleasure.
Absolutely. It's just a ticking time bomb, We'll be having another episode with you again. Now, I can't thank you enough for the time you spent with us today. I mean, your journey, the way you've reinvented not only your career, but also your own person and the people around you, the stories you have about your husband, your son, and everything else. It's just a whole embodiment of the message that you're carrying, because some people usually are a do what I say, not what I do, but you literally walk and talk this whole emotional regulation, stuff, and how people can prevent their own burnout. Now, what do you wish everybody really appreciated about emotional regulation that literally can change their lives and is often overlooked? And if they knew, they would do better.
So definitely there's two things I'm going to say here. Definitely that physiological stuff. If they knew what they were doing to their physiology, how sick they're actually making themselves, how they're speeding up the aging process, how they're potentially causing heart issues, destruction of brain cells, all of this sort of stuff. If they actually understood the physiology, I would be surprised if people didn't run to it and go, what can I do to stop this? Because you can, when you're in a more renewing state, when you can be in that more renewing state, you can start to reverse some of these physiological effects. And there's science behind it. There's research papers behind it. There are doctors talking about it. There are heart doctors who recommend people do these techniques because of the power of what they do physiologically. So there's that side. And the other side is just to be the person or the parent that they want to be, to reconnect to that sort of spiritual side, to their values, to how they want to show up in the world. I think if people understood that when you're in a better emotionally regulated state, your relationships are better with everybody, not only with yourself, which is really an important one, because you've got to like and love yourself enough to want to make a difference. But then how you then bring that energy into the other important relationships in your life. And it can spill out into your work environment as well, that you'll find, maybe situations where you might have reacted in a particular way in the past. Suddenly you can see yourself reacting calm. And I'm thinking of one client in particular who said when he started going into his corporate space, using these tools, suddenly more opportunities that had previously been denied to him were opened up to him because he'd changed his energy in the space. He understood how to connect back into himself to be the person he wanted to be in that environment, definitely in the home. I mean, I hear this from lots of parents, even parents who have just come to a talk. And just recently I bumped into a mum who'd been at one of my talks, and she said, oh, I recognise you. I said, where from? And we got talking, and she said, oh, you were at this talk. Okay. And she said, and I said, oh, so are you using any of the things we talked about? She said, it's been a game changer. She was at one talk And all she learnt was heart-focused breathing and decided to do exactly what I suggested in that talk. And it's a game changer. When you can connect back into yourself, especially as a parent, wow, magic can happen. You know, we can really make a difference. So that's, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
importance of.
and it's like a ripple effect. Have you ever heard that story, Who Kicked My Cat? So that CEO at the top yells at the mom or the dad, and then the dad gets cut off in traffic and comes yells at the other partner, and the other partner yells at the kid kicks the cat. So it's just a chain of
Yeah.
events which we think we have no control over, but you can actually stop that chain reaction. Now, Jackie, I can't thank you enough. I mean, people pay you for this kind of stuff, and I'm just here, googly eyes and enjoying this. I'm gonna obviously let people go to your website and see when your next cohort is. But I really thank you for walking us, from all the migrants in the trenches that people are experiencing to really being calm in whatever chaos is going on in our lives. And just that your story as well, because you've literally lived it and you embody all of this. I mean, your journey from burnout to brilliance is just not only grounded in science and heart, but it also shows what's possible for everybody else when you pause, you reset, and you rewrite your script. I can't thank you enough for obviously gracing us, not only for this particular episode, but for your energy, the information that you're leaving us with, and just being you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You've got great questions, great energy, and always a delight. So thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching or listening right now, if you actually felt a spark in this episode, I mean, maybe a clarity or just an urge to start doing things differently, I think this was a sign. You don't let this moment pass you by. Just jump onto Jackie's website and check out when the next Calm in the Chaos cohort starts. And as she said, these are happening periodically. And just jump onto jackblack.com.au and just maybe see what they've got going on. Or if you can wait, her book is coming out soon where you can dive deep into shifting your inner world, because your outer world is just a reflection of what's happening on the inside. And you might be walking out there with the latest Louis Vuitton or whatever it is, but people can see the chaos that is actually happening internally. And it's so liberating to have an understanding of how you can actually be calm in times when there's chaos around you. And obviously, if you enjoyed this episode, Jackie has been here for the second time. So that means you need to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so you do not miss out on any of this information that so many people are dying to literally get. All right. So at the end of the day, this is one of those episodes where I also was learning in the process. And thank you so much, Jackie, for helping us really unpack ideas that actually help us live a happier existence. And for those that are watching this right now, thank you so much. Tune in to the next episode. I think we've got something in store for you that will help you build that clarity and also make you have better relationships. Till then, bye for now.